Hi, I'm Jeremy Robinson, and this is the 19th hole. Hi, welcome to the 19th hole, brought to you by Glal.uk. Delighted today, we've got the hierarchy of Ealing Golf Club. So to start with, we've got a former Walker Cup player, Ricky. Now, Ricky, you're going to have to correct me if I'm right here, but you are a former Walker Cup player, former European player, you're the director of golf at Ealing,
you're
the pro at Ealing, you're the captain at Ealing.
I am.
And what else do you do at Ealing?
Sometimes I fix the nets, but I've got the reason I wanted to go for it is because I think I might be the first person in the history of golf to have 3 car parking spots, because I've got one for the director, being director of golf, one for the golf professional, which I am, and one for the captain. And you know what, this time of year where it's a bit difficult to find some amusement with the weather, I amuse myself by thinking, which car parking spot shall I use today?
That's an interesting thought. Anyway, my second guest is Chris Russell, who's actually your boss. So you better be careful what you say. And Chris, you're right when you said that you wouldn't get a word in edgeways. Chris, but anyway, thanks a lot for coming on, Chris. I've obviously had your dad on here, so I've known your dad and your family since the day you were nearly born. So it's interesting. But yeah, Ricky's a great friend of mine. So are you. So thanks very much, guys, for coming on today. So Ricky, we'll start with you, mate, if we can do. Me and you golfing a long time.
Long time.
I remember when you were a printer and you were playing full time and all this kind of stuff. You've had an unusual kind of, when you were younger, it was a bit unusual. You're a bit older than the other guys, not playing full time, and won the English Amateur and played in the Walker Cup. And where did it really come from, that?
Well, I didn't turn pro till I was obviously quite old. I suppose 32 I turned pro, and I think the reality is I was shit up to then. But I always came from a sporting background. My brother was an international diver. Before 16, I did judo, and I got England schoolboys cap as it were. As I say, my brother was a diver, Commonwealth Games and Europeans, didn't quite make the Olympics. And so after I got to 16, and it was always done weight category in judo, I was very slight. I was very small, and I was very slight, and I got battered in the Welsh Open, judo Welsh Open. And I realised then, as a 15-year-old, I need to take up another sport. And a neighbour, took his friend of mine, his dad took him to the range, and I went along, and I promise you, it was one of those things when I was just hooked straight away. I absolutely loved it. None of my family played, but I just got hooked. I think it was because being so sporting, you go over the park with your brother, you play football. And, my mum never really worried whether we stayed out all day. I think she preferred it, to be honest. And all the other kids would go home early, and we would go, well, they've taken the ball, and we would left. So the great thing about golf is obviously you can do it on your own. And yeah, I got hooked early on. I will tell you, I will tell you how it started, though, because my granddad gave me, he found these old set of hickories. That's how old I am. He found these old set of hickories, which had no grip on the end. So I sort of got a book. It was a Max Faulkner book, and I got some electrical tape, and I put them on the end of the grip to make these grips, and they were green. And do you remember the old duffel bags?
Yeah.
Well, I only had a duffel bag, so I stuck them in the duffel bag. Of course, when I carried them, all the heads fell out because you had to put them in head first. So I put them in head first, headed down to the local par 3 course in Greenford. And I'd read this book that, when you play, you tee off between the 2 markers, and being a par 3 course, it only had 1 marker for the first and 1 marker for the 10th. And, the last year at school, I was a bit thick, and I was skiving a lot. I was skiving because I really got into golf, and I was, getting into a bit of trouble because I'd literally signed the registration, and I'd carry on walking, jump over the fence and go and play golf. And of course, I turned up this range with my Hickory Club duffel bag, teed up between the 2 markers. But the 2 markers were facing towards the 9th green rather than the first, because, as I say, they only used 1 for the first and one for the ninth. And of course, the ninth green was only about 40 yards away, and I hit it on the green, and I thought, well, this is easy. You know, this is so easy. What a simple game. But then I realised, where do I tee off from now? Because I'm now standing in the middle of the ninth green, looking for the second second tee, as it were. And then I followed these people around, and that was my start. And I got into it. I went to local clubs, and I gradually improved. I came to Ealing very early in my golfing career, as it were. I stayed at a club for about a year, Sudbury up the road, and I came to Ealing, and it was such a great club. You know, it still is, but it was such a great club for juniors. It was such a great club for people like us, and I suppose I just kept thinking that I would only turn pro. I never really thought about turning pro until I played international golf, because of my brother. You know, having all the blazers hanging up in the wardrobe was always a reminder. And I never thought about turning pro until there. And I think my career was a bit slow. You know, I've won a couple of early on, and then I didn't do so well. And then you start playing in major events, and I started performing better in those. But I think it was only when I played international golf that the first thing then is I wanted to play Walker Cup. And then after that, I turned pro, because I think the selection in those days was a little bit political. And, you know, I think I had a chance to play in 89, 2 years before I played. And I was close to getting in. I don't think I deserved to, but I was close to getting in. I played in Europeans and, you know, did well in that, and England won. But the reality is, I think they were still picking a few English, few Scots, few Welsh, and few Irish. And then, of course, I played in Walker Cup. In Portman, I deserved my place, as it were. Absolutely loved it. Best thing I'd done. And I think they were asking, you know, I was still unsure. My old man wanted me to take over the printing business. I think now he's pleased I turned pro. And I think then that, you know, I think the whole thing where they say, you've got the officials sort of saying, you know, why don't you wait 2 years? You'll get in the next team. And I go, but what if I'm playing rubbish? And they almost said, well, it doesn't matter. You'll still get in. And I think that was the final. You know, I worked so hard myself, being a printer and doing all my spare time, that I decided that was the end. And I don't regret it. I don't regret it at all. I had some great times, obviously, as an amateur, and I had great times, you know, playing on tour.
We'll come back to that Walker Cup in 1991, because what we like to do on the show, we do love name dropping. I've got some names here. I've got Harrington, Mickelson, Duval. I mean, that's quality name dropping that you can talk about.
Yeah.
Chris, are you still there? Oh, you're still there. Yeah, you are, Chris. Thanks for sticking with us, mate.
Is that the longest answer you've ever had to a question?
Sorry. I'm not used to these things. Sorry.
No, mate, it makes my job easy. So Chris, your direction into golf is a little bit different, obviously, to Ricky's. I remember your old man when I first turned pro in 1987. He kind of helped me out with a villa in Pinto del Lago in Portugal, my first tournament. With Rowley was there. Rowley was caddying for your old man. So times have changed. But anyway, so it was just a bit of brief background. You know, you must have just obviously kind of watched the old man. He had a great swing, I might say, as well. So did he coach you early days?
Well, but yeah, I suppose. I mean, I had a very strange introduction to golf in the respect of I was instantly around the world's greatest players from being a baby.
Yeah.
And I can remember one of my earliest memories being about, I think I was 5 years old, and we were at Saint Pierre, you know, the old Epsom Grand Prix.
Yeah.
And it was like light summer nights, and I stayed up beyond my bedtime at that age because my dad let me stay up to have a chipping competition with Seve. Just going around the chipping green there outside the front of the hotel. It was amazing. And yeah, experiences like that from a young age just seemed to me, really.
Yeah.
And yeah, the amount of things I learned from being out. My dad used to practice, as you probably both know, with Woosie and him are best of mates. So when Woosie was world #1 winning the Masters and I went to tournaments, I was walking around the practice rounds with them, hitting a few putts on the greens and messing around and stuff. And yeah, quite amazing, really. So yeah, very different route into it to Ricky, I suppose, and kind of Ricky turning pro in his 30s. I perhaps turned pro too soon, really. I'd probably like to have had a bit more of a stab at the amateur game, but I did get international honours as a boy and a youth. And then aged, 19, went into my PJ training, and I was kind of working 70 hours a week as an assistant up at Gullen in Scotland, where I started. So yeah, I had a good sort of period being an assistant pro, and then I've latterly gone into management.
When you were younger though, 16, 17, obviously you had ambitions of playing, so but you I wouldn't say you stopped early, but you changed direction quite early then.
I mean, I left school at 16, sort of a few GCSEs behind me, and that was it really. I was adamant I was going to be a golf pro. Really sort of focused on the ones that would enable me to get my PJ qualifications and go through all of that. You needed the certain ones, and I did all that. But yeah, never hugely academic. I was always just thinking about getting out and playing some sport, be it football or golf or whatever. And yeah, sort of probably was a bit of a slow burner that first year when I left school after 16. I think I was still off like 3 handicap when I left school. So you wouldn't normally associate that with somebody who's going to make it at 16. But within about 8 months, I got to +1 and then +2, 3, and I was playing really consistent golf. And yeah, I had a good stretch for a couple of years. But there's a lot going on in your life, sort of 18, 19, lots of changes happening, and maybe your priorities slightly realign. And yeah, I saw the bigger picture and got out and enjoyed myself. Certainly when I was working in the pro shop, I don't regret those years and having a good time. So yeah, I've had a very, very lucky life through golf, through all my experiences.
Ricky, going back to name dropping, I thought you could name drop, mate. That's nothing to what we just heard there. Seve, Woosie. Try and beat that one. I don't care what you think about Harrington, Mickelson and Duval.
I will say that I played in Valencia in El Soler in one of those Spanish tournaments early in my career. And Seve was playing bunker shots, next to us in the practice bunker. And, I think me being a lot older, we were taught a very different way. One sand on, open it up, loads of sand, not much control. Now and again, you spun it too much. But he had such control over this action. And fortunately, he turned around to me and he said, no. And he started explaining how to play a bunker shot, which I'm now absolutely crapping myself because I don't want to make a mess of it. And he said, no. And he said, I'll show you how I do it. And he said he controlled everything in his follow through. So he had a sort of a different way, hands back, and he sort of punched it out a little bit. And he said, oh, look, I'll show you. And he hold the first one. No word of lie, just hold it. And I sort of laughed and said, that was amazing. He said, no, that's easy. And then he proceeded to play a really difficult one, the awkward length, about 40 yards or whatever. And he put it to a foot. And you thought, welcome to the real world of, professional golf. I mean, amazing player. Amazing.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
how hard they worked as well.
Yeah, but he was, I was lucky enough to play with him on a couple of occasions. And he was just, his touch around the greens is unbelievable. I mean, you could go on about stories. I remember watching him in Madeira, funnily enough, round the chipping green, giving John Hawksworth a lesson.
Yeah.
And it was amazing to watch.
Yeah.
It was at the end of his career when he was kind of losing it, but he still had a great feel in his hands. And he was obviously I didn't know him well, but he was a really nice guy as well.
He was brilliant, and I think that was the thing. I mean, I when I turned pro, and the people I was mixing with was a couple, obviously Jim, Gary Evans, a little bit, people I knew as amateurs, and then people I knew like Jamie Spence and Paul Way. I knew them as amateurs. I'd stayed amateur quite a long time, but I was obviously 10 years older than most of them. But Seve was so good with youngsters. He was good to me, he didn't need to do that, but he was so good to the youngsters as well. He was brilliant with the Spanish youngsters turning pro. He would always play practice rounds with them, show them, and he was so great on the practice ground. He respected people who wanted to try and be better, and you can't say that about all the superstars, to be honest. At that time, they were a little bit distant, but Seve was such a good guy. You could tell he really loved the game, and I think all these. It's just the trouble is he made it look so easy, and it was so easy to him. It took us a lifetime to even hit one like him, to be honest.
Yeah, it was so popular with the fans as well. But
very.
Just going back to natural players, Chris, Woosie, no more natural player in the game of golf, in my opinion, than him.
Just makes it look so simple, doesn't it?
Doesn't
I
he?
mean, I've played hundreds of rounds of golf with him, and yeah, I mean, I caddied for him at the Masters actually, 2010, and despite the fact he was actually struggling with his game at that point, and I think he finished dead last in the field. He's never impressed me more, which kind of is a strange thing to say, but both in his attitude and just some of the things that happened around the greens, it was just unbelievable. I mean, the way he just kept going and throwing himself into it, and all he was doing was making double bogeys and hitting it all over the place. But
Yeah.
just saw a whole new side to an absolute legend of our sport, really. There,
Brilliant, yeah.
And then beyond that, really, just the touch around the greens. People associate him with power and all the great shots he hits. Don't get me wrong, yeah, that's amazing. But the chipping the guy's got and the touch around the greens is just something else. I mean, you don't win the Masters and become world #1 without that. But yeah, I think that's sometimes underplayed. And just a top bloke, he's been brilliant for me over my whole life, really. My godfather, actually.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say he's your godfather.
Yeah.
But the thing that always amazed me about Woosie was, and I say again, I've played with him a couple of times. I was lucky enough to play with him. But you say about his power, but when you see him in real life, when I first saw him, and I thought, how can this bloke hit the ball so far? I mean, you're going about McIlroy being small and that, but Woosie's proper small, no disrespect, isn't he?
Yeah.
And the power he creates when he won the Masters that year, the drive he hit on 18. I mean,
Yeah.
we're on about Craig Norman being long,
Incredible.
but Woosie was long.
I think a lot of it, you look at like McIlroy and his the way he centralises himself with the ground and that resistance he's got. I think that's what Woosie had that probably a long time before anybody else with his kind of low centre of gravity and really amazing balance through his swing and using that really well to create speed. No technical expert, but that's kind of how it looks to me from the outside where he got his power.
Yeah,
Big
I played
with
with
as well.
Jeremy at. Can I come in now, Jeremy?
Yeah, you can.
I played with him last round.
Ricky, I thought you'd lost your voice, mate.
Chris is, obviously Chris played loads of time. I feel, privileged to have played with him last round in Ireland and Druids Glen, and we were both doing well. And what struck me was exactly the same. His tempo never changed one little bit. He just carried on doing the same things, and his ball striking was a different level. And that was a great thing. You play with these players and you can see, and you just look, what's the difference? Well, he's ball striking on that day. I don't think he won. I think Monty might have won it, but his ball striking was just different level. He might have missed the green, but he was never far off being pin eye pretty much all the time. And you're right, some of his drives, good grief, you were frightened to neck it. If you necked it, it's going to be embarrassing. You just would go. You just wouldn't know how to handle it. But he was a top guy as well. Just a brilliant guy to play golf with. Really was.
Saying that, Chris, talking about striking on the ball, your old man could strike it when he was playing properly.
Yeah, I mean, I know he's my dad, so I'm slightly biased, but I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a more rounded golfer that I've played with, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
I'd say Woosie's pretty close. They're quite similar games, but Dad just doesn't really have a weakness. I mean, if you asked him, he would say it's his putting, but it's not really. Yeah. I mean, the amount of golf I've played with him and caddied for him with that broom handling operation as well, it's definitely not his putting. But yeah, just an incredibly rounded player. I think a lot of it comes back to sort of maybe mindset and stuff like that. Maybe at certain times of his career, I wouldn't say he did like drive, maybe just confidence at certain times, and he very much kind of rode on the crest of the wave when he was in form. I mean, a little story about my dad to give you a bit of an idea about sort of when he is driven and what he's capable of. My grandmother was really poorly, so my mum's mum, his mother-in-law, and in 1992, we knew she only had a few weeks to live, and Dad kept going to visit her between tournaments. And I think it was the Austrian Open, and they had a conversation. He said, "I'm going to win for you this week." And he went out and Peter Mitchell held a bunker shot to beat him on the last, and he finished second, 1992 Austrian Open. So he went back, and she was obviously just days to live. And he said, "I'm incredibly, really, really want to win for you." And she said, "I'm incredibly proud of what you've done," type thing. He says, "But I'm going to go out and do it this week." He was really determined to do it for the family. And he went to the Lyon Open, and he played 72 holes without a bogey. The only player to ever do it in the tournament. And
I
just
played
shows
in that.
when that drive was there, and he had that real sort of steel in him, he was just unbeatable. I've seen it on Seniors Tour a couple of times. We had sort of quite stern conversations about sort of behaviour on the golf course and it affecting his performance. And literally just on the back of that, he just go out, I'll show you. And when he was in that mindset, he could have been one of the best players in the world without a doubt. Those who know him rate him like that. And the way
I played with it. I played in that Leon Open, and he absolutely romped it. I think I had 72 holes without a par.
I was going to add actually.
He romped it.
I was going to add, Ricky, because I played in that tournament. I thought, was it not the French Open, Chris, or was it the Leon Open?
Leon.
It was the Leon Open. So I think he'd correct us, but I think he went 93 holes without a bogey in total.
He did.
And then the French Open was the following week, and he ended the run with like an 11 on one of those holes with all the water on it.
No, he did.
Well, if you're going to go out with a bang.
He said about that when he was on the podcast when he came on. But I mean, I did play at Leon that time, and it was an amazing achievement. I mean, to go 18 holes bogey free, you feel pretty proud. 36 holes, you go on a different level. But 72 holes, I mean, it was amazing. It was a good course, Ricky, wasn't it?
Yeah, good course. It was fairly new course, wasn't it?
Yeah, tree line.
Time.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was,
and it wasn't easy, and he absolutely romped it. He gave me a great. Your dad, when I first met him, I'd just turned pro, and Peter McAvoy was doing some corporate stuff, and he was doing something for Diners Club, and Pete Cowan was still playing, and myself and DJ was out there, and John Sterling, the old pro who was England coach, was doing a bit of a compare. And we all did a clinic for the punters, as it were. And, John would get me up or whatever. And your dad did long driving because your dad could shift it. And I was just so intrigued at how he shifted because he never had the fullest swing and he nailed it. Anyway, speaking to him afterwards, and I think he said he got it from Henry Cotton, like a tip where halfway down, he would almost pull the handle back and it would whip the club through. And of course, the whole week I'm trying that then for the whole week. Yeah, but he could really, such a good player, your dad, such a good, and top bloke.
What did they call that? The recoil, wasn't it?
Yeah, like a recoil. Honestly, it almost pull it back. I'd never heard it before. And there I am at La Manga. I love a tip me, and I'm trying.
Anyway, one thing I've got to say is, Chris, your old man will probably listen to this at some stage, so we've got to stop saying how good he is.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going quite so far now, to be honest. He's nearly 70.
Well,
he's playing golf every day and pretty sharp still, I think. Yeah.
Age catches up. Ricky, just going quickly back to the Walker Cup. I was lucky enough to play in the Walker Cup as well at Sunning. I played in '87 before you at Sunningdale, and there were some great players playing in that. I said in your team, Harrington, Mickelson, Duval. Great fun, the Walker Cup. You boys got bashed, did you or not?
I think we were close. I think the biggest problem is we lost the first foursomes. Three of them on the last green. I mean, I missed a bit of a straight up the hill 3.5 foot. Someone gave me some videos the other day of the Walker Cup, and I hadn't watched it since then. And I've been telling everyone it was about 8 foot up the hill, but it was only about 3 foot, and it was a miserable effort. But from then on, it was fairly close. I don't think it was. We had a chance halfway through the final singles where we were actually up, but at the end of the day, it ended up 14-10, and it was a brilliant experience. The crowds were amazing, like they always were in Ireland, and you couldn't have wished for a better venue.
I mean, I look back on it. I played at Sunningdale, as I say, it's one of my favourite courses, Sunningdale.
Yeah,
and there were big crowds. There was no Sky TV in those days. It was on BBC Two for 7 hours a day.
Yeah.
We
were on BBC. Yeah,
it was great fun, and when you finish playing like we have now, you kind of look back and think, it's great. So
yeah, that's right. I think you do.
At the time, you don't think that much of it.
No, I think you do.
But to going on to team things, Chris, the PGA Cup, your dad was captain. Oh God, here we go, your dad again. Your dad was captain, and he made you vice captain, which is great, and it must have been a lot of fun. That.
Yeah, it was brilliant. You guys obviously know what it's like from Walker Cups, just being around a team like that. There's nothing better. And long time since I've been involved in that sort of thing, to be honest with you. And I was surprised how much it touched me, really. When you meet all the kind of coaches, the families that come to watch it, it's not just kind of the 10 players. There becomes about 100 of you when you throw in all the PGA staff as well, and you form quite a bond over the week. So yeah, no, it was disappointing they didn't win it, but like anything like that, I always say after the Ryder Cup, it's not necessarily the moment that really matters. It's more about the event, isn't it? And all kind of coming together. The results, I wouldn't say immaterial, but the experience that everybody had was just lives with you forever, doesn't it? Whether you win or lose. So a great time. I think just kind of the real sort of playing ability and the way that the Americans back home, the competitions that they have to play in, like US PGAs and things like that, they're just playing at a higher level, I think, more regularly. And I think that kind of showed itself over the few days in the sort of nervy moments. And yeah, they weren't frightened to play very aggressive, both off the tee and on the greens. And that's kind of what wins match play matches. Our lads was maybe slightly more sort of reluctant to go for it at certain times, and the odd match you'd just get edged out of. But yeah, brilliant. No, really, really proud to have done it. And yeah, met some great friends for life. Certainly, both me and Dad. We knew a few of them, but not all of them. And now we're in regular contact with a load more lads that we shared that great experience with.
Yeah, because as you rightly say, the Americans, again, I was lucky enough, I don't know how I was, but I was lucky enough to play in that PGA Cup. And I loved it. It was great. It was great fun. It really was. I mean, we lost, but it was great fun. And as you say, the Americans, they had some, I mean, they had three, when I played, they had 4 or 5 PGA Tour players playing. And they, you know, not that we weren't, but they were proper golfers, some of them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we obviously on the practice days, you don't get to see the Americans playing. It's not like Ryder Cups and probably Walker Cups. You kind of know what you're up against.
Yeah.
Whereas it's like all of a sudden you pick your best team, you just turn up against their best team on the first day and think, well, our lads look great in practice. We should be able to put this to bed. But it played out very differently. I don't think that was being sort of naive on our part. It's just the practice days. Our boys looked untouchable. We thought this is going to be a breeze. But yeah, when the gun goes off, it's slightly different. Rather than reaching for the driver on the first tee, the shaking and they've got the 4-iron out or something, you know, that sort of mindset, and you can't shake that off.
No, but great fun, and you say great experience for both you and your dad, and something you can look back on and be proud of doing it, really.
Yeah, no, amazing. Yeah, brilliant to do it with Dad.
Yeah. So as I said at the beginning, we've got the hierarchy of Ealing Golf Club here just today. So Ricky, you've been at Ealing about my recollection is you've been there, I think, about 61 years, have you, overall?
About that. Feels like it. I joined in 76, so you can work out from there as a junior. Yeah,
but it's obviously, you know, you've obviously got fond memories of growing up there and everything, and it's a great club, and the reputation it really carries before itself is the condition of the course in the summer. All the boys that play there, and you have quite a few pros play there. They'll say how good the greens are. How fantastic they are.
Yeah. It's amazing. You know, that's mainly down to Greg Evans. I think, like a lot of clubs early on, when I became the pro, first of all, we were like a lot of clubs. We were committee led, as it were, and sometimes committees don't make the right decisions regarding courses, and as a consequence, you know, we were just like every other course around, you know, landlocked, not particularly on good soil. But we were fortunate when Greg Evans was a junior here, and he came back, and I'd done a bit of work with Peter McAvoy on golf course design, and I did a project up the road on Harrow on the Hill, and it was a good budget. It was done USGA spec, as it were, and when it opened, it was immaculate. I mean, absolutely immaculate. And then when I got the pros job, I said, you know, we've got to get Greg in because he's so good. He's going to change it. And the first thing we did was sort of take on board that you don't need a committee when you've got, let's say, Greg and myself, and all you need is a bit of support. And, you know, it was a change of a time. They were changing the committee at the time, or the board. And fortunately, we had about 6 months where we wanted to be slightly different. Greg said, why don't we be let's get our greens so fast because we're flat. Let's be a bit different to the rest. And I think it just gives us that timescale to just prove to the members this is what can be done. And since then, we haven't really changed. We've just tried every time. I mean, budgets have been tight, but we've just tried to improve as best we can. And we've had tremendous support from the club and from the members, to be honest.
So your role at the club is you're the, I'm forgetting being captain, not forgetting you're captain.
Yeah.
You've been the pro there for a while now.
Yeah.
So you coach there. I've seen you on Instagram and stuff doing your videos from your man cave there and giving tips that are going around the world. So you obviously love the place and enjoy being there and involved.
Yeah.
When I came and visited you guys, it seems a great club to be at.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is. And they've honoured me with being captain on our 125 year. And, we've been honoured by having the champion club here. For England have given us the champion club to host. And we're really looking forward to that. I personally would have thought, are we long enough for the people, the standard, because we're only 6'1", but no, we're absolutely flattered, and great having Chris on board as well, because we will make it such a good event, and the players will go away thinking, wow, and that's what we want. We know what we are, we know what size we are, but we want players going away going, God, that was amazing. That's all we want. That was amazing.
Yeah, as well as that, I think sort of members wise as well, I'd like to think I've only been here 10 months now, and I really think we're sort of kicking on the stuff at the clubhouse as well, and service wise implemented a lot this side. I think the clubhouse service and member service have been neglected for a little while, and I think we've reevaluated that through various surveys prior to me coming in. I think we're getting a nice balance now of not just an immaculate golf course, but a proper functioning golf club, and we're well on the way. It's a happy place to be at the moment. It's really, really nice.
It sounds like it's a busy place then, Chris, from your point of view. So you're involved in all aspects of the club, are you?
Yeah, I mean, I cover everything. I suppose, obviously, we've already discussed sort of my background in golf. So I suppose you'd say, in a way, my expertise is kind of out on the grass, really. But when I came in for the job here, it was quite apparent that work had to be done this side, clubhouse, F&B, just general administration of the club, really, communication, and I think we've achieved a lot in 10 months, really, to sort of even that up. Ricky's obviously incredibly instrumental in all of it, really. I've never come across anyone so positive and enthusiastic about a golf club, and he holds the club very dearly to his heart. So having him as captain as well is just amazing this year. So really, really good feeling, and long may it continue. We're in an amazing location, really. We're so close to central London. We have a wonderful combination of a very diverse membership, and I think that's what really makes it fit here. You've got sort of CEOs from central London firms, and you've got members from out of sort of Middlesex and what have you, where the fees here are probably quite tight for them, but they all come together, and there's a real good club atmosphere. So very positive.
How many members have you got there?
Playing wise, we're at just under 700.
All right, you got a good membership then.
So and we got a waiting list as well, which is great, and that's really sort of kicking off now as the weather starts to improve. So it's kind of managing that, really, and busy year with the 125 here as well. Like Ricky said, we've got the England Champion Club, we've got the Middlesex County Championship, we've obviously got the Legends Tour at Pro Am on the 9th of May. So looking forward to hosting that. Amongst other things, we're historically the club's had a scratch open, which is played over 36 holes. We're going to do that over 2 days, and we're going to bring in some pros as well and do a mixed gender open as well. And just something to put back, really. I think it's quite key. I think golf clubs need to start getting involved. The Euro Pro Tour's now gone. Some of these scratch opens at clubs are kind of just petering out, as we've noticed with ours, as people haven't quite got the time to devote to it at weekends. So we're going to give that a real go this year and try and do something special where we get female and male players, elite amateurs and pros all playing together and doing a great pre-tournament pro-am as well, which our members can take part in. So I feel that's kind of the future for me, is clubs getting involved at sort of grassroots elite level. And I really want us to be part of that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Do you have a strong junior section there, Ricky, or not? You mentioned junior.
We've always had we've always had a lot of our juniors come through like one of the public courses, and Brent Valley being the local club, doing tremendous things with juniors there. But we have a few juniors. We don't necessarily have a strong juniors, but saying that, we've got 2 in the States in university, you know, because I think the biggest, I mean, I'm talking more along the lines of, obviously, you know, how good they are, because the reality is that if you want to become, you know, that little bit better at golf, we haven't got the practice facility. You know, we're going for them, but we haven't quite got the room or the practice facilities. And so obviously they would go to a club nearby. You know, Buckinghamshire is quite close to us, but we've got 40 juniors, and at the moment we're going through a spell where they're quite young.
Yeah.
You know, they're 10 or 11 or 12, but they're good. They're good kids. And as I say, this club, you know, all our major tournaments is open to juniors, open to women. We don't have men's and women's as such now. We have club majors. All the boards are open to the club, and you know, I've got daughters, and that's been very important for me. That's the beauty of the game, and beauty of a part of a club is the handicap system does take care of club life, you know, and then scratch. But it's like anything. I think we went through a bit of a lull, but I think the junior section's picking up. And as I say, we've got about 40, and we've probably got about 12 who play regularly. And I think the youngsters, we've got like half a dozen who are 12, 13-year-olds, and you know, they can play at any time. They can play with the members, into adults at any time. And I think it's good. It's a good way to be. That's how it needs to be, and I'm proud to be part of it, to be honest.
It sounds like between the 2 of you, you've got a lot of good things going on then at the club, and the things are looking really pretty positive by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd add obviously Greg and Ollie Compton, our course manager, into that.
Of course.
We got a great front of house manager as well, chef. So yeah, the team's changed a lot here, hasn't it? Really, in the last 12 months, and the directors of the club as well has been a change there. So yeah, slight shift in direction, but all very good, and getting good feedback from the members, which is the most important thing.
That's good. So as you mentioned, we're coming to you in May. We've set up a Legends Tour Pro-Am Series one-day events, and we're excited to be coming to you guys. So we got 3 or 4 former Ryder Cup players going to play, and your dad's going to play, going back to your dad yet again. And Ricky's obviously going to play. So hopefully we'll get a good weather, and we'll have a great day, because we've got a couple of these events before at Blackwell, which Chris knows the club well there. And, you know, they're great fun. The members love it, because the guys that come and play, you know, they're coming to play. They're competitive still, but they know they want to give the guys, the amateurs who are paying to play, a good day. And I think it'll work really well. From our point of view, we've got some great courses we're going to be playing this year. You know, we're going to yourselves, and we're going to Pete Baker at South Stouse, Lindrick, Moortown, St Pierre, mentioning St Pierre, to Blackwell. So we're looking forward to getting this off the ground and see how it goes. And I think there's
good idea.
A bit of a market for one-day pro-ams with senior tour players. And I'm not just saying it, but they'll be invited, the players. So whether it's the right thing or the wrong thing, you know, they're my mates and they're your mates, Ricky, and a lot of the guys that you know, Chris. And, you know, it'll be a good day. We're really looking forward to it anyway. So, and I'm sure the kids will be great and everything.
Congratulations on rolling that. I think it's long overdue, something like this.
I agree.
The way that the Legends Tour schedule's kind of petered out in recent years, it's picking up again now. I think it works really well, doesn't it, for the guys to kind of fill in their weeks a bit? And great initiative. Well organised, Jeremy.
Well, I think what we've tried to do, though, Chris, as I explained to you guys when we came down there, you know, we'll have a bit of a prize fund, but it won't be massive. But we're paying the guys reasonably well for playing golf for a day. You know, a shotgun start in the afternoon. So if somebody starts off with a triple bogey or a double bogey, it's not the end of the world. They'll still have a good day. And they're getting reasonably well paid for it. So everybody should have a good day. So it's we're hoping, as you both know, you know, when you start events, year one is the hardest year to get it up and running. And if you can get it up and running in year one, then after that it should be fine. You know, so it'll be good fun. But we are looking forward to definitely coming to see you guys, and we've got some good players coming to play. So former Ryder Cup players, and so yeah, it'll be a good fun day, that is for sure. So before we finish talking about paying players to play, everybody we've had on this show, we've asked them about live golf. Live golf, it's not quite so new these days because the PGA Tour suddenly found $250 million extra. And the money in the game at the moment is staggering, really. And if you're a player coming into it, it's great because, in my opinion, no doubt, Live has driven the money up on the tours, the DP World Tour and the PGA Tour. And they're great tours as well. It's a great opportunity for players. But what do you think, Chris? First of all, from your point of view, you know, if a few years ago, some of your dad's mates, your dad and Woosie, do you think they would have signed with Live or not?
I don't think so. No, I mean they came up through the ranks sort of Monday qualifying and what have you, didn't they? So they appreciate the kind of struggle on the way there. I personally, I kind of see the Live as the guys who are on the way up and they've got the opportunity to earn that kind of money. They don't know if they're going to get injured next week or they're going to lose form or whatever. It's very hard to kind of turn that sort of money down when it's thrown in your face. And then at the tail end of that, if you're the latter end of your career, yeah, you just have to one more big payday, aren't you? Somewhere in the middle, I think you'd have to question it if you really did have serious ambitions, as I'm sure they all do. They're incredibly driven professionals. But yeah, I would just say that really, that on the way up or on the way out, I kind of don't blame them, to be honest. I think personally, the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour maybe should have seen it coming a little bit in terms of the scheduling. I've thought for a long time that golf needs to go a bit more like the way kind of F1 is, and kind of every fortnight in a bigger tournament. I feel it gets diluted by the amount of golf that's on TV. And I felt that they kind of, hopefully a happy balance could have been found maybe sooner than what's transpired. But yeah, as you say, Jeremy, it's resulted in increased prize funds for the respective tours as a result of Live After. So hopefully all will end up fine. But personally, no interest in the tournament at all. I mean, like last week, there was one played in Saudi, I think, wasn't there? And the winner won whatever it was, 7 figures anyway, certainly. But yeah, just no interest in it. So it could be played anywhere, really. It wouldn't matter. There's no connection to it whatsoever. Great players, no doubt. But yeah, not a fan. PGA Tour will recover, obviously, in time as the players kind of regenerate. It turns over quicker these days, doesn't it, as well? So players coming through, I think they'll feel the effects for a couple of years, and that'll be as if there's nothing ever happened if Liv's still there. I'm not going to get sued for saying that, any of that, am I?
No, you're going the same line as your dad. Your dad was on the board, so he had to say that. But Ricky, I was talking to a mate of mine the other day, and I don't really watch that much golf, but I do watch Dubai because I like watching it. I
love it, yeah.
And I do, and I enjoyed watching on Monday. But you know, there's a court case going on between the DP World Tour and the players, and whether they're going to ban the players from playing on the European Tour, the ones who join Live. But as my mate said to me the other day, if they ban the Live players, the Dubai Desert Classic this year would not have been the same tournament it was, because Patrick Reed wouldn't have been playing, Poulter wouldn't have been playing. It would have been a McIlroy just exhibition. He would have been
taken. Well, I agree. I mean,
Reed and the bit of obviously chucking the tees beforehand, whatever's gone on there is not for us to comment on. But
no,
it made the event the Reed, whether he was throwing tees at him or not, because he's such a great player. If the European Tour banned him, which he's part of Live. You know, and Poulter played so well, and Richard Bland played well, and Stenson shot 8 under par the last days. He's a world-class player. And the European Tour, or the DP World Tour, not so much the PGA Tour, but in my opinion, the DP World Tour need these players to come and play.
Well, 100%. You know, it's as you say, the PGA Tour less so, I suppose. But you know, the sad part for me is that you know, I don't think you can't blame professionals going for where the biggest money is. You know, the thing about the game, I'm older, so I was brought up where you think that if you get your tour card, it's 20 years on tour. You never thought that you'd get injured. But nowadays, I think careers are so short at the professional level because they're all absolutely in the gym. You know, the longevity's gone out the game for a lot of people. And so getting a quick buck, or if that's the right way to say, you can't blame them. The sad part is it's the golf fans and the tournaments that are missing out because the best players in the world are not competing against each other, and apart from obviously the majors. And I totally agree with you. And again, the sad part for me is I haven't watched one Live event. You know, it's a brilliant field, and I just haven't watched one event. And you couldn't have watched a better Open Championship with Cameron Smith against Rory. And now Cameron's gone to Live. You know, he plays in Asia as well, which is great. and I haven't watched it, and that's a shame. And I love watching my golf. And you're 100% right. The DP Tour needs to probably try find some way where they can get, you know, those players playing, in my opinion, to make it competitive or make it better. Because the reality is, I don't care about the rules, but the last 3 or 4 times on the Order of Merit or the Race to Dubai, you've had people winning or in the frame for Race to Dubai, and they've never played one European Tour event. They're getting it all through the majors or the World Championship. So, you know, it's silly. I mean, Billy Hawkshaw at least comes over and plays in the BMW, but I think Will Zalatoris had a chance to win the DP Tour Championship by just going to that one event. That's not right, is it? Surely.
Well,
surely.
It's totally different. And I think the thing is, I think they've got to sort this out one way or another. They've got to say, you know, the world rankings is becoming an absolute farce.
Ridiculous.
You can't tell me Dustin Johnson's not in the top 40 players in the world when he plays well and everything. And I just think
and the majors will miss out then, because the best, you know, a lot of them are based on the world ranking. If you're not on a tour that is, you know, dictating the world ranking, so it's a bit of a mess. And I really hope they grow up and they all get together and they say, look, you know, Greg Norman's been on about World Tour for donkey's years. It's no surprise. He's probably not enjoyed being at the PGA Tour at all. So he wants this, and he's getting the players, and he's got the money back in it. But the people who are missing out, I suppose, are the fans seeing all the tournaments together, apart from the half a dozen events where they can play.
Yeah, I tell you what, though, I'm looking forward to the Masters this year. It's going to be great.
It'll be brilliant. It'll be brilliant.
It's brilliant. One thing, excuse me, the one thing this will do, you know, and we'll finish on this in a minute, but the one thing this will do, it will elevate the majors to be even bigger tournaments than they were. The Open, you know, the US Open, the PGA, and the season opening Masters. I mean, Chris, you said you caddied at the Masters and that, and, you know, the Masters is going to be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be serious this year, won't it? I think, you're looking at McIlroy and form he's showing. The improvement in his wedge game, is it from 120 yards in? He's gone ranked to number 3 from in the 150s. I mean, it just says everything, really, doesn't it? There, and that's the change he's made. Yeah, I hope he gets it done this April. It'd be nice to see him finally complete that Grand Slam. What a player! Yeah,
I mean, the way he played at Dubai and the way he played the back end, well, all last year, really. I mean, if he doesn't win a major this year, you'd have to think he might never win another one. I mean, the way he's playing, he's just such an impressive player to watch now. He reminds me of Ricky when he was in his prime. That's all I'm not sure I can say.
Well, we wore the same colour trousers.
So, anyway, I won't keep you boys any longer. It's been a privilege to have you.
Thank you for inviting us. Yeah, brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, it's been a lot of fun, and look forward to catching up with you in May. But have a great day there, and wish you and all the members at Ealing the best of luck for the season. And
thank you.
Thanks very much for coming on. It's been great.
Thank you very much, Jeremy.
Cheers, Jeremy.
Good to see you again.
All right. See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.